So this is a new group called Universe of Spirituality. It came up from a lot of discussions we had in this Marathi Mandal. With Dr. Deshmukh spoke on Advaita, Dr. Vikram Patrikine, and there are also Dilip Thatte who spoke on Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Karma Yoga, various Gita messages. So there is so much interest in studying our scriptures, Hindu philosophy and other philosophy, and search for spirituality. So the title of the group is Universe of Spirituality. So it is our great privilege to have Dr. Swamini Svatmavidyananda Saraswati to this evening to inaugurate this new group. Swamini is joining us from Bangalore, where it is very early morning at about 6 a.m. Frankly, we were not mindful of the fact when we requested her that it will be so early in the day. But as she said, she wakes up at 4 a.m. and so this is okay for her. And thank you very much, Swaminiji, again for accepting our invitation. As you all know, Swaminiji is a disciple of late Puja Swami Dayananda Saraswati ji. He was an internationally known Acharya of Advaita Vedanta tradition, interfaith leader, and scholastic author of Vedanta. I had the privilege of listening to his discourses on Vedanta, and thanks to Swaminiji, we also could see him in Rishikesh when we visited last and had his blessing. Dr. Saraswati, who has done her PhD at University of California at Santa Cruz, is currently the Acharya of the Arsha Vijnana Gurukulam, which was founded in 2004. It has centers in Atlanta, Eugene, Washington, D.C., Detroit, Milwaukee, and Fort Myers. As a founding member of Global Women's Peace Initiative, Swaminiji traveled globally, addressing the ever-increasing challenges that face humanity in global ethos. Today, we have requested her to talk on spirituality. What is it and how to get there? In that context, Dr. Deshmukh has done a lot of research on spirituality. So he was going to speak after Dr. Swaminiji speaks. But she has requested that let Dr. Deshmukh speak first. So Dr. Deshmukh is an associate professor of neurology from University of Florida. Since retired, he had his own clinic too. But he's a great researcher in Hindu philosophies, yoga philosophy. He has written a number of peer-reviewed articles. I will separately circulate you his CV. It is very long and very illustrious and very remarkable. So, but I cannot remember everything today. Dr. Deshmukh, I request you to do your introductory observations on spirituality. What is your research findings briefly, and then we will give floor to Swaminiji, and then she can go ahead. Please.
Thank you so much. It's a great honor to be present at this time. And I want to start with one or two of my favorite Sanskrit shlokas. The first shloka is from Atmabodh by Adi Shankaracharya. Upadhi vilayat Vishnu nirvishesham vishet munihi jale jalam viyat vivamni tejas tejasi vayatha. This is a profound statement on Advaita Vedanta, and I love it the way it says it's absolutely true even in present days. And the second one is from Ashtavakra Gita, where Raja Janaka says, Akashavat anantoham ghatavat prakrutam jagat iti jnanam tathaitasya na tyago na grahodalaya. Beautiful. So, in a way, the Vedanta and the Upanishads have already reached the ultimate understanding as one can achieve by self-awareness and introspection. Now, the modern science is trying to elaborate on these profound statements by our sages, Upanishadic sages, Vedantic sages, and to understand them. And most of the neuroscience is now trying to understand these states that have been described by our sages. Some of the modern neuroscience talks about non-dual awareness, consciousness itself, consciousness without contents, or minimal conscious awareness or minimal phenomenal awareness with minimal content. So neuroscience is trying to approach and define this so-called pure consciousness in terms of non-neuroscience. I had prepared just one slide with 10 ideas in 10 minutes. So I want to share that with you, if you don't mind. And then I have also given references. So let me do that. Can I turn this on?
Yeah, you share the screen. Yeah, Mahesh.
Is that okay?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, you are co-host, so you should be okay.
Okay. Okay, so can you all see that?
Not yet.
Or not yet?
No.
Oh. So what do I need to do?
You have to go in with that slideshow. Mahesh, I think you have to guide him. I am the wrong person to guide him.
Oh, share screen?
Yes.
Yeah, share screen.
Ah, okay.
Yes, sorry.
No.
Do you see that now?
Yeah, science of spirituality.
Yeah, good. Science of spirituality. Can I make that bigger or it doesn't matter?
No, you'll have to open one by one. This is big. Fine. This is full. It's fine.
Okay.
If you go on slideshow, that will be bigger. If
Yeah.
you go on slideshow.
Okay. Can you see it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Good. Good.
All right. Good. Good. So these are the 10 new ideas in 10 minutes. I was given 10 minutes. The first idea is that the truth or the reality is both transcendent as well as immanent. And the transcendent so-called noumenon guides the immanent phenomena. Noumenon, the word noumenon comes from nous. Nous means mind. So the science thinks that this transcendent background that we all have, the whole universe has mind-like characteristic, mind-like features. So if you especially read authors like Lothar Schaefer, who was one of my great friend, and he was a professor of physical chemistry, and he talks almost Advaita Vedanta. You can read 2 of his books, which are quoted in there. So, and he clearly says that the so-called molecules, atoms, are guided by this profound universal field, non-empirical field that we cannot see, we cannot observe, we cannot change it in any way, but that field affects all of us. In fact, it affects the whole reality. It is the formless behind all forms. It is the silence behind all sounds. It is the mind, so-called universal mind or cosmic mind, behind all individual consciousness or individual minds. So it's a profound statement that this background guides all the events, starting from quantum physics, subatomic particles, wave equations, Schrodinger wave equations, and all that, all the way to the conscious self. Now, the second idea was what my article is in print, is called the homeodynamic bio-oscillations. That these bio-oscillations are fundamental to all life forms. Even single-cell organisms like paramecium has a rhythmic activity of 0.01 hertz. And in the default mode network of the brain, in our human brain, there are oscillations of 0.01 hertz up to 300 to 600 hertz. So there is a whole range of biophysical oscillations that go on in all life forms and serve different functions, including mental functions, conscious functions. And this is sort of embedded in of course, the cosmic electromagnetic spectrum, which is huge. Now, the third idea is non-dual awareness, which was kind of popularized by Josipovich from New York. And Josipovich, of course, gives credit to Buddhism as well as Advaita Vedanta. He does give credit in his writings, which is nice to see. And in non-dual awareness, he describes 10 different characteristics of Advaita Bhav, or feeling of unity or oneness. More recently, a German neuroscientist, Thomas Metzinger, talked about minimal phenomenal experience, in which that means in your mind there are only very few things, like just the breath awareness, or just the awareness of silence, or awareness of anahatanada. Just one or two contents in your consciousness. And then he talks about tonic alertness. Tonic means sustained. So our mind is shanta udita, like calm and alert. Yoga of course describes shanta udita. So tonic alertness and minimal phenomenal experience. This article was published in 2020. Then one of the leading neuroscientists is Christoph Koch, and he published a book called Feeling of Life Itself. It's a wonderful book. And initially he worked with some of the Nobel laureates, and they tried to find what they call the neural correlates of consciousness. But he was never satisfied with it. Finally, he took meditation himself. He worked with some of the Buddhist monks and also Dalai Lama, and had his own experiences. And finally, he came to the conclusion, what he calls Feeling of Life Itself, which is a wonderful book, and I would highly recommend it. Another leader in neuroscience is Antonio Damasio. He has published several articles and several books. One of his famous ones is Self Comes to Mind. And the more recent one is The Strange Order of Things, in which he describes hemodynamic primordial feelings. What he's saying, he describes proto-self, core self, and autobiographical self. Proto-self is the intrinsic sense of being or existing, and that primordial self with primordial self feelings is based on our whole physiology, biophysiology, hemodynamics, homeostasis, and that of course is very complex. Temperature regulation, blood pressure, oxygen, pH, CO2, all these complex mechanisms are being organized. When somebody asks you, how do you feel now? We just say, oh, I feel great. Now, if you ask you, what do you mean by great? There are a million different things that subscribe to that feeling of greatness. So that feeling of primordial feeling of being, how we feel from moment to moment, is what Antonio Damasio calls the basic consciousness or the fundamental consciousness. The core consciousness comes when we interact with something, when there is a duality, whether it is the breath or some person or image or whatever it is. And finally, the autobiographical self is when it's based on memory. We have the memories that my face is like this, my name is this, my parents are these, my family is this, all that goes on. The seventh idea is what is called the voices within, or the inner speech. And this is an excellent book published in 2016. And he described that most human beings speak to themselves all the time. And what we say to ourselves has profound influence on our mind and brain and the body and the world. So what we say to ourselves is extremely important. If you keep negative thoughts all the time, it pulls you down, it drains your energy. While if you have positive feelings and positive thoughts, it encourages you to do and succeed in your own life as well as in the world as a whole. The next idea 8, is ionic flows in the cell membranes. And these are at the fundamental level, like sodium, chloride, potassium, calcium, water itself, hydrogen ions. Hydrogen ions or protons also go through the cell membrane. And this is true not only at the cellular level, but also at the level of human being, organism. The so-called CSF, the cerebrospinal fluid in the brain, is like a kind of ocean within ourselves. We carry the ocean with us in our own body. And it is very critically maintained in terms of temperature, pH, oxygen, its chemistry, everything, because the brain floats in that CSF and is continuously interacting with the CSF. And the CSF goes up and down with each heartbeat in the cerebral aqueduct of Sylvius. So it's profound. There is so many interesting facts about it. The ninth one is, I said when I shared this article, that the life is powered by the solar energy. It is the sun. No wonder that people have been worshipping the sun for millennia. The light-dark cycle is profound. It is the circadian cycle that defines the physiology, neurophysiology, excitability of neurons, hypothalamic circuits, including the suprachiasmatic nucleus, secretion of hormones, sleep-wake cycle, our behavior, everything is organized through this redox cycle. And finally, the 10th idea was quantum biology. The quantum physicists have come to a dead end now. They don't know. All they have found is the Schrodinger equation, which is mainly numbers. It's not mass, it's not energy. It is numbers that defines a pattern in a box. And that pattern defines the position of electron or particles or waves and all that. But this, one of the nuclear physicists, his name is Jim Al-Khalili. He is a professor of nuclear physics in England, and he talked about that there are hydrogen bonds in the DNA molecules, and those hydrogen bonds kind of define the structure of the DNA molecules, and there is what he calls quantum tunneling. So protons go from one area to another area and define the function of that molecule and modifies the DNA molecule. So we are coming to a very fundamental level from quantum physics all the way to human neuropsychology, neurobiology, and ultimately it is the Vedanta, Advaita Vedanta, which is a great philosophy. I have great respect for it. And neuroscience is indirectly, slowly but surely coming to the same conclusion. And with that, I thank you.
I think that is a great introduction.
And I just want to mention that I have given the chronological biography, bibliography of all these different books, and also the articles that I mentioned, those are described in this too. And one more thing I wanted to mention, that the father of American psychology, William James, had interactions with Swami Vivekananda. And in this book, which is called The Varieties of Religious Experience, William James describes Vedanta, he describes Samadhi, he has given the address where Vivekananda stayed at that time. So there were interactions between William James, who was professor of psychology at Harvard University, and Swami Vivekananda. It will be nice to find out more about their interactions historically. That will be wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Deshmukh. I think Swamini ji will take us beyond that, beyond the body, mind, and intellect network or system to the ultimate realization. Swamini ji, I should not say one word more. I request you to please take the floor and thank you.
Namaste to everyone. Hats off to Dr. Deshmukh for summarizing such a big body of knowledge, very complicated concepts in a way that it was very easy to understand and enjoyable also. I was happy to be caught up in such a short time. So hats off to you and thank you very much. And with your talk we can understand how this group is going to look like, which is why I wanted you to go first, because I wanted to get a sense of where and a group like this would be headed. So I will share some thoughts with you, and we start with a prayer as usual. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thanks to Ramesh ji and this group for inviting me today to address the topic, what is spirituality, and of course for the subtopic, how to get there. I have known Dr. Deshpande ji for a long time, as he mentioned, and it is a joy to join you all today and address this august assembly of learned scholars. It delights my heart to be in the company of thinkers. This is what this is what is the beauty of a group like this, the universe of spirituality. Everybody is a thinker, and what do I mean by thinker? Everybody has thoughts, but when those thoughts are geared towards looking at something other than questions such as what to have for breakfast and dinner, that is when the thoughts are not preoccupied with the daily reproduction of life, then we call such a person or an assembly of such people as thinkers. It already means something else. It means that there is enough space to be able to reflect upon something more profound than how to protect oneself from real or perceived attacks, how to reproduce life, what to eat, what to drink. All this, we have a nice break from that. And it is said in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, a very beautiful thing, a dialogue between two sages. Yajnavalkya, as everybody knows, Yajnavalkya, very highly evolved sage, and another, his contemporary, Gargi, another highly evolved sage. So in their dialogue, Gargi asks him, who is the stingiest person on the planet? Who is the person on the planet that is the most stingy? As we say in Hindi, kanjoos. That is our word, kanjoos. And then it goes along with another expression, makhi choos, meaning the extremely stingy person who's having a cup of tea and a fly drops into this person's cup of tea, and what do they do? They take out the fly, no doubt, drink the tea, but also suck the fly to make sure that every drop of tea is not wasted, and that kind of a disgusting person is called makhichus kanjus. And so Gargi, the sage, wants to know who is the most kanjus person, the most stingy person on this planet. And then Yajnavalkya's response is very, very interesting. Yajnavalkya says, Atmanam aviditva yaha asmat lokat praiti bhogargi saha kripanaha. The one, O revered Gargi, the one that departs from this earth without knowing the truth of the self. Atmanam aviditva, without knowing oneself. That is the most stingy person. Now, we don't expect this kind of a response. We thought Yajnavalkya would say, the one who doesn't give charity, the one who has no time for their fellow beings. None of that was mentioned. Straight away, the one who doesn't have Atmajnanam Saha Kripanaha, that person is the stingiest. Now, why did Yajnavalkya say that? Very interesting, because the person who hoards is the stingy person, and here the person who does not have Atmajnanam has hoarded his buddhi, her buddhi. Buddhi means intellect. And all the brain cells have been safely, kept without using using the brain cells for the purpose for which they were given as a gift from Bhagavan, to know the truth of the self. And very brilliant answer. So the brain may as well be in chloroform even while the person is alive. The person goes through life as though in a like a sedated zombie, just go from one thing to another. And because the Viveka, as the Viveka Chudamani points out, human birth is Daivanugraha Hetukam. It is a gift of Bhagavan. It is a gift of the Lord, of the Goddess, to have this human body and this human mind, because this is the only upadhi, this is the only body, mind, sense complex living in which the jiva has the access to self-knowledge, Atma-vidya, Brahma-vidya. Otherwise, even though people tell me, when I give online classes, people say, my dog is also taking your classes, Swamiji. My cat is also attending the classes. No, the cat is attending because you are sitting. That is why. And the dog wants to be next to you. And besides, the dog and the cat do not need this knowledge, because they do not suffer from a sense of incompleteness connected to the self. They do not suffer from longing. They do not suffer from self-loath. They do not suffer from self-confusion. They don't suffer from self-judgment. And they don't suffer from feeling like one cannot get along with the Jagat and all the things in the universe one cannot get along with. They don't have that problem. They live happily wherever they are, as long as they are not hunted for food. The animals seem to be in tandem with the laws of nature. And what in Vedanta, the laws of nature are nothing but the manifest avataras of Bhagavan. It's just the manifestation of Bhagavan. It is what it is, and what it is Ishvara, is the concept of what we call God. And so therefore, the main purpose of human life is already there at birth. At birth there is alienation. If ever a person was safe, it was perhaps in the womb, connected to one's source, connected to the mother. But as soon as the umbilical cord is cut, this person is supposed to be an independent entity. What kind of independence? The baby cannot even turn itself over. Has to be fed, has to be taken care of head to toe for a very long time. And so therefore, this alienation, which is the hallmark of human life, drives one, including all the scientists, to find the master key of the universe through various means and in their own fields. Are we going to find it through physics? Are we going to find it through chemistry? Are we going to find it through all these biosciences? Are we going to see it in the sleep-waking rhythm? Are we going to see it through quantum physics? What is the way? And while all those efforts are extremely celebrated, what the Veda says is that this is not Atma-Vidya, what we call spirituality. And I'll talk a little more about that a bit later. What we call self-knowledge is not something that is gained through research, intellection. Na ayam atma pravachanena labhyah dhaya na bahuna shrutena yamaivesha vrinute tena labhyah tasyaiva atma vivrinute tanum swam. Kathopanishad. So, na ayam atma pravachanena labhyah. This atma is not gained by listening to scholarly discourses. So, as soon as you hear this, please don't log off, okay? Yeah, because there is more to come. Because you may say this is also a discourse, and if the atma is not gained, I'm out of here. Wait, wait for the entire verse to be unfolded. Na bahuna shrutena. Not this atma, the atma is not gained by listening to many people, whoever comes to town, from scholar to sannyasi, everybody I listen to, and yes, I will get there. No. And then how to get there? The Upanishad says this very beautifully. Yamai vesha vrinute. Unto whom? Unto that person who says, I choose you, O Atma. I choose this knowledge, I choose you above everything else. And what is this choosing? Actually, this choosing is just a sankalpa, an intentionality to know. Because the longing to be one with everything is already an inherent longing that one is born with. So, yamaivesha vrinute tena labhyah. By that person alone the atma is gained. Vivrinute atma tanum swam. It's almost like the atma unveils itself. Beyond the spoof of this duality, the atma shows itself to the person who has the greatest longing for it. And little bit of a cryptic verse, so we'll be seeing this. So basically, when we say universe of spirituality, the spirituality, actually I think this group should be called University of Spirituality, because everybody is so learned here. So anyhow, so universe is also very nice. So the universe of spirituality means that this is something that is transcending religion. Religion has to do with generally what we call the first portion of the Veda, which talks about the know-how. Know-how of how to live in this world without hurting oneself and hurting another. It talks about laws, how to get along. It talks about ethics, dharma. It talks about wish fulfillment, not at the cost of others, but because, going within oneself, being prayerful, and prayerfully fulfilling uh, all of one's ambitions, goals, and desires in life. This is generally what all religions teach: how to be dharmic, how to pray, how to get along with with others. And we see this in the Bible. Look at and in the churches, if you go at the end, they will have a little bit of one kind of an exercise. Look at somebody you don't know next to you, and then look at the Christ in them, look at Ishvara in them. Same thing here. Every religion teaches how to lead a smooth life and get along with others, at the same time fulfill your own desires. But where religion ends, spirituality begins. And the ancient Indian, the Veda, the holy book of the Hindu Dharma, we are very lucky to have it. It is something that should be protected, not just by UNESCO, which is protecting all these sacred heritages, but by the people who practice it. That is how it has been protected. Because the Veda shows us that there is something more to life than just leading a harmonious life of wish fulfillment. All the people who have the ability to think and are potentially thinkers will get sick of this life. This is, and so therefore enters Vedanta, the end of the Veda, and meaning the last portion of the Veda, and the end of the human quest for oneness also. Very, very beautiful. And then what does Vedanta do? It throws out all the things. Really speaking, it does something very interestingly paradoxical. On the one hand, it throws out all those premises which were established, those injunctions and prohibitions are all which were established by the first portion of the Veda in order to lead a harmonious life, are all thrown out. And at the same time, paradoxically, Vedanta also builds on them. As the Shukashtaka, the octet written by Lord Vyasa's son, says, Ko vidhihi, ko nishedha. That is the refrain. For the person who has understood the truth of the self, if everything is one, then what are the injunctions to be followed? What are the prohibitions? Vidhi means injunctions. Nishedha means prohibitions. What injunctions? What prohibitions? It's all just one. It is all one. Injunctions and prohibitions in the form of how to lead one's life, how to not hurt another, how to stay away from depressive thoughts, all this are needed at a certain level of one's growth. We can call it spiritual growth. Emotional growth is spiritual growth. There are two kinds of growth that happens as soon as the body is born. One is the natural growth cycle. Shad vikaraha, informed by sixfold modifications. Jayate is born. Asti survives birth. Vardhate grows up. Viparinamate becomes capable of reproduction. And then up till now the going is good. Fifth one, apakshiyate, oh no, everything is stopping working, decays, declines. And then what? Sixth one, vinashyati, is destroyed. So birth and death, and in between these two bookends, there are a few other stages. This one naturally goes through. You don't have to say, how will I get my first grey hair? You don't have to think. It will come. That is if you have hair. If you don't have hair, you don't have to worry about that either. Okay? So then you don't have to worry. Also, you don't have to think, I wonder when my first wrinkle will come. It will come. In time, this, whether you like it or not, whether you initiate it or not, these sixfold things, all beings are subject to this Shat Vikara. All bodies, all minds, all senses are subject to this Shat Vikara. And then, there is another kind of growth that one has to initiate with one's own free will. And this is what is called emotional growth, spiritual growth. Emotional and spiritual growth means this. This is what it means. And so they are actually synonymous. A person can be said to be a spiritual person. Why? Not because they are in the puja room or worshipping all the time, not because they are studying holy books, but because they are able to, there is something about them that whatever they have understood, that is seen in the way they lead their lives. Such people are revered in the Vedas. The Taittiriya Upanishad says, if you have a doubt how to lead your life with regard to your conduct, go to the people who are revered by the whole society as walking the talk and ask them their advice and opinion. Such are the people that we look up to. And whether they know Vedanta or whether not, doesn't matter. But there is something harmonious about them. There is something that they have accepted about life. There is some way in which they don't bring out the worst in you. Such are the people who have successfully initiated what is called the emotional/spiritual growth. This doesn't have to do with religion, because this spiritual growth ends up in what is called in the Shastra Sarvatma Bhava. Sarvatma Bhava means being able to see the whole world as an extension of the self, of one's own self. And so, how does that manifest in the everyday life? As compassion. This is where one is headed. And that's why I say it transcends religion. Because there is no Hindu compassion that is separate from Muslim compassion or Christian compassion. It is compassion. At some point, one transcends this whole idea of religion, organized or unorganized. One transcends that. And that is what is spirituality, where one is able to see that there is something here where all the religions may be leading me towards, but that's not the end all of it. And as I said earlier, thankfully, in our Shastra, we have in our teachings, we have the scope for that. And in fact, Vedanta begins where all religions end. And Vedanta is not just for Hindus, it is a treasure for humanity. It is a treasure for everyone asking the question, what is my purpose in life? Is this all that I have to do? Is go to work, come back, go back to work, come back, fight with a few people, and then try to fulfill my desires, and then action, reaction, results of action, more action because I did not like the result of action. This is what is samsara. This is what makes not the world, but your head go round and round in confusion. And this is what has to be corrected through the study of Vedanta. It is necessarily a cognitive pursuit. And why is it a cognitive pursuit? Because one misses the self, not because of space, or one is separated from the I, from the standpoint of space or time. One is separated from the I because of one's own ignorance. And we have the famous example given in Vedanta. And what is that? You go out at twilight on your front porch, and on the front yard you see something scary, something with 3 bends. And then you immediately say, snake. But then you also have your cell phone in the hand, and the cell phone has what does it have? Flashlight. You turn the flashlight on, and then you discover, what is it? You can say rope, but this is a modern example, hose pipe. And so the hose pipe, you yourself had tried to water, you didn't roll it up, and after you watered the lawn, you just, you just left it there, and it looked like a snake. And in twilight, it confused you. You jumped, and then what happened? You screamed, and then when you shed the light upon it, then you understood, this is just a hose pipe, nothing to be afraid of at all. Nothing to be afraid of. And then what happened? This becomes a very wonderful stock example for the Atma. The rope is the Atma. And on this rope, as in Sanskrit we say, there is an aropa, and as those who, that's why it's called rope, because there is aropa, a superimposition of sorts. And just because the rope is partially known, if it was pitch dark, you would have gone outside on your front porch, and if it was a new moon night, not seen anything, then there is no confusion. An unknown rope cannot be mistaken for a ferocious snake. A known rope cannot be mistaken for a poisonous snake. Why? Because it is known as rope. It is the partially known rope, hose pipe, whatever it is, garland, dried garland sitting on the lawn, that you mistake for the snake. Why? Because you know something is there, but you don't know what it is. This is exactly what is happening with the eye. Are you here? Of course, you have to say yes. You don't say, let me consult the significant other and come back to you. That is not. This is one. Perhaps we can take some comfort in the fact that there is one question. You don't have to consult with the significant other. What is that? Am I existent? Am I here? You don't have to consult anybody, because the answer comes, yes, I am. Aham asmi sada bhami. Kadachinna aham apriyah brahmaivaham atas siddham satchidananda lakshanam. Beautiful verse from the Advaita Makaranda, a very nice text on Vedanta. Aham asmi, I am. And then the next question is what? How do you know you exist? What a stupid question, one may say. Of course I know I am. Of course I know I am. What a stupid question you are asking. Do I exist? And how do you know? Because I know. So you see, I am, which is existence, Sat, is very closely linked, in fact inextricably linked to I know I am. All knowledge. Sat, Chit. And then how can you say it is all knowledge? Well, this is an ontological question. Why? Because, it is a question of reality here. Because when you say, I don't know Greek, this is Greek to me, means I don't know this subject matter at all. This is Greek to me. If you say, and then if you say, I don't know the Greek language, I will have to ask you, how did you come to this conclusion that you do not know the Greek language? Except for a few symbols, you do not know the Greek language, or the extent of your Greek is up to the Delta variant. You know the word Delta, that's all, of the coronavirus. How do you know that? How do you know? How did you come to the conclusion that you do not know Greek? And you are constrained to say, I know that I do not know Greek. You know what you know. What you don't know also you know. And it is that I know which can never be converted to I don't know. That is why it is all knowledge. Because after all, what is all? The sum total of what you know and what you don't know constitutes all. So you are Sat, you are the source of existence, you are all knowledge, Chit. And then how long can you say I am, I know I am? So are you here now? Yes. Are you here now? Yes. Yes. Are you here now? Yes. My question now is, how long is now? You can measure a second. Now we have nanosecond, that is also a measurement. Then we have picoseconds, that is another measurement. But what is the length of now, for which we really do not have any answer? We don't have any answer. What is the length? Because the now is that which never ends. In fact, the now is timeless. It is you. That now is based on that observer alone. It is a canvas. It is an endless canvas, so to speak, on which all of life's all of life's events take place without, unlike the paint canvas, without taking on the colors that one experiences. So there are actually, there is the one, the ahankara, that the I notion, that is tied or identified wrongly with the body mind sense complex. And this ahankara has to be taught. That's why it's a cognitive pursuit. It's for the lack of knowledge that one suffers from ignorance and all its broods, sorrow, fear, etc. It is because of this not understanding the truth of oneself. Because whether you know you are the whole, or whether you do not know you are the whole, you still are the whole. It is something that has to be understood. That's why it's a cognitive pursuit. And so therefore the length of now is basically is a timeless, it's an expression of timelessness. And that timeless is this I, that that is as though visiting this body mind sense complex, like when one checks into a hotel. You go into the hotel, you put the card and the room opens, you have checked in. And that is very important. This analogy is important because it gets us to the other part of the question, how to get there. So when you check into the hotel, you don't immediately start some kind of a remodeling project. Oh, I don't like the artwork, I'm going to take it down and I'm going to put my own artwork. I don't like the curtains, so I'm going to call a renovator and then change the curtains. I don't like the carpet, so I'm going to do this. I don't like the fridge, I'm going to order a new fridge. You don't do that. You know you're there for 3 days, 4 days, week, whatever. And you just say, this is really not my real house. I am just a guest. I'm just come here for whatever work I have to do. And then after I check out, I will go back to my real home. And that is exactly the attitude the texts of Vedanta tell to have when dealing with one's own body, mind, sense complex, one's own house, one's own people, everything. That whatever that own, wherever we put own, that's the problem. There is that sense of ahamta. Ahamta means I-ness, mamata, myness. You can own a lot of things. If you don't have a possessive relationship with those objects, with the help of this I-ness and myness. So everything, you check in and you check out. You are a guest in this jagat, and this jagat includes your own body, mind, sense complex. The body has to be kept going. The mind has to be managed. And so you do whatever is needed to make sure that this is kept going and this is managed. You feed it, you take care of it, because nobody else will. So you have to take care of the body, you have to keep the mind in ship shape, and then that's how you do whatever is needed. But then when that inner space is watered, is nurtured between the one that is observing the body mind sense complex, observing that one is agitated, is not the one that is already agitated. There is a space between the observer and the observed. Observing all this, that one which is very much there, that observer comes very close to the truth of the self as Bhagavan, as Ishvara, which Vedanta unfolds, and for which Vedanta is the only means of knowledge. Science may try to get there, but the primary mode of knowing in scientific enquiry is through anumana, inference. One step inference, multi-step inference, all this inference, comparison. Some of it is pratyaksha, being able to see things as they happen. So everything that is codified, everything that is observed, everything that is put down in research, is not you, is not the you that you seek. That's why Dr. Deshmukh's 10th one, whatever that was, that the physicist threw up the hands in despair, because there is only to a certain place you can go through scientific inquiry, because there is a sadhana sadhya asambandha, a non-match between the sadhya, that which is to be gained, is that non-duality, is that oneness, and then and the sadhana, the means that are being employed, there is a mismatch. It is like a person who boards the flight and then wonders and then gets down, and then welcome to San Francisco, the PA, the public address system announces, and then you wonder, how did I go to San Francisco? I wanted to go to New York. Well, the answer is simple. You boarded the wrong plane. You boarded the wrong plane. And it often happens. I was going to a small place once in Georgia, and then I boarded the flight in Atlanta and was sitting. And then it was one of those tiny flights, just sitting on the tarmac, and then you were just, you just walked into it. And then the pilot announced, this plane is going to Valdosta, Georgia. If that is not your final destination, please get off. And 2-3 people got off because they had mistakenly got on this. They actually needed to go somewhere else. So, being able to understand that I am on the wrong flight is very, very important. Because Vedanta is not, we can do research on so many things, but you can even do research on Vedanta, no problem, nothing wrong. So many PhDs people get as a result of that. Nothing wrong. Knowledge, wherever it occurs, however it occurs, is an embodiment of the goddess Saraswati, goddess Shruti. So nothing wrong in researching Vedanta. But if we think that by research we are going to get there, that is a fundamental mistake. And that is why the Kathopanishad, in the earlier mantra that we saw, it does not, the Atma is not gained that way. Then how else is it gained? The first thing to understand is there is no real gain. It's an as though gain, which you already know because you are already Brahman. Even the person who is self-ignorant is Brahman. Even the person who is knowledgeable is Brahman. Even the person who is separated from the truth of oneself is Brahman. It's all Brahman only. Everybody is Brahman. And so, but Brahman is that which is unopposed to even your ignorance. When you say, I am ignorant and I have thrown in the towel as a researcher, as anything, as anybody, then when you say, I have done that, then, that is a statement of honesty. And because that is exactly what the truth of the self is that, is that it is not understood, it is not gained by research. It is, how is it gained? It is gained, the first step is to say, see the mismatch between the methods that are deployed and the method which is needed. The methods that are deployed for scientific research cannot take you very far. It can perhaps, establish you as the witness, but then that's where one is left hanging. The Mahavakya, the statement that you are non-separate from Ishvara, one can never get to through the methods of scientific enquiry. It's not because science is lacking. Science is fine for what it does. It has its means of knowledge. But for this we have to understand what a means of knowledge is and what it does. A means of knowledge is something that is unique to showing whatever it is supposed to reveal. Like the eyes are useful for revealing color and form. You cannot say, why should you be such a fanatic and say only the eyes you use to see shapes and forms and colors? I will use my ears to find out what is the shape of this object, to find out what color it is. Not possible. This is how pramana works. Vastu tantram jnanam. This pramana is the means of knowing. And the means of knowing is nothing to do with one's own feeling about whatever one is seeing. If I show you this clay cup and then I say that this is a mango, please look at this wonderful Indian mango, you will not be fooled. Why? Because your own eyes are corroborating the fact that this is a cup made of clay. This is there. And you will always be backing your eyes. Same thing with the ears and all the other sense organs which we call direct perception. Same thing with inference. Inference is important in the observed phenomena of the universe. You wake up and the roads are wet. Very simple example. You conclude it must have rained. You didn't see the rain, but this is what inference is. So there is multi-step inference in the Shastra. We talk about Arthapatti, through which all the medical breakthroughs have occurred. If it works on a rat, the human being must not be far behind. All this is through these things alone. And then we have comparison. A known entity is compared with an unknown entity, and then we can say that okay, there are certain similarities and the unknown entity can be known as a result of that. And there is also the cognizance of absence. Is there a cup in my hand? No. Why? You don't say I don't see it there. You know cup, you see the cup in your head, and it is not right here, right now. There is no absolute absence, because you cannot negate the one who is cognizing the absence. You cannot negate the conscious being who is saying there is nothing. And are you there or not? Yes, you cannot deny yourself. So there is no such thing as a total absence. That presence can never be denied. Even if you say I am not, you have to say am. Cup is not. Even when you say is not, you are constrained to use the word is. Absence of cup is. Asti iti upalabhyate. Everything that is obtains as is. And Vedanta says, reveals that is Ishvara. That's why if you spell Ishvara in English, the first two letters are I-S, Ishvara. That is what it is. And how can you stumble upon this knowledge? Because we are talking about the truth of the stumbler, we are talking about the truth of the inferrer, we are talking about the truth of the seer. That is why we need the sixth means of knowledge. When all other means of knowledge have exhausted themselves, which is the body of knowledge called Vedanta, which is its own means of knowledge, which reveals things that about you that is not available for any other means of knowledge. That is why there is no accommodation, or we cannot say we can know it by this or by that. There is no option. Where knowledge is concerned, there is no option. You need eyes to see color and form. You need the body of knowledge called Vedanta to reveal the truth of the I as Ishvara. Simple. Simple as that. And so therefore, taking this teaching seriously and exposing one to the pramana, to the means of knowledge, is the way to understand that non-duality. Everybody has glimpses of this non-duality. That is not a big deal. When all the desires calm down. In sleep, of course, one is non-dual with the whole. And then when all the desires calm down in the waking state, when one has meditated a bit, when one is in a good mood, so to speak, then that oneness, that accommodation, that compassion, that feeling of all is well with me and all is well with the universe is there. The problem is, it is fleeting. Why is it fleeting? Because there are thousands of other orientations. So many orientations. And these orientations are contrary to the truth of oneself. I am as good as this body, orientation number 1. I am the mind, orientation number 2. I am my occupation. I am male, I am female. These are all habitual orientations, where the hose pipe is mistaken for a snake. Those orientations have to be dropped through the systematic study, and then the fruit is very sweet. What is the fruit? The I here, Aham, is revealed to be nothing other than Satchidananda Atma. I exist, I am all knowledge, as we saw earlier, and then I never come to an end. I never come to an end. And that self is always beloved. In fact, the word in the Sufi poems, if you read, it's always beloved. Know the beloved, be the beloved, it says, because that self is most dear to one. And it is that self that one seeks in other bodies of knowledge, in other people, in other pursuits. It is oneself that one seeks. And so understanding this is very important. That is half the battle won. And then what is the vision of Vedanta? The vision of Vedanta is that what is this Bhagavan? This Bhagavan is also Satchidananda Atma alone. Bhagavan is all knowledge, and Bhagavan never comes to an end. It's the same as you, except this Bhagavan comes equipped with the position, the status of what is called Bhagavatta, the ability to project, and the ability to project this universe, the ability to sustain this universe and take back the universe. And you also come with the ability to project what? Confusion, sorrow, dejection, rejection. That is what it is. This is called Jivatvam, which is a mithya attribute. It is an as though projection. Just like you in your dream. It's an as though projection, which doesn't affect the projector, the I. And on the Ishvara side, Ishvara also, all the status of being the overlord is an as though status. And that is what is understood by taking away things that do not belong. Like even, you can look at this as a cup, or you can look at it as clay. It is nothing but clay. Look at this. It is clay all the way. The weight of this cup is weight of clay, and the color of this cup is color of clay, and the entire cup is clay. And so therefore what? It's only one way. The cup resolves in clay. The clay does not resolve in cup. Similarly, the entire Jagat of names and forms projected by Ishvara resolves in Ishvara, and non-separate from Bhagavan. So therefore, whatever I see is Ishvara. That becomes a kind of a contemplative exercise. And this is how one sees the truth of the Mahavakya. Mahavakyas like Aham Brahmasmi. Brahma here is Bhagavan. Tattvamasi, etc. And that is what this entails. And I am sure that with all your erudition and with all your penchant and proclivity for leading a very thoughtful life, you will definitely, quote unquote, get there. There is really nowhere to go, nothing to do except to revel in one's own glory. Thank you very much. Om Tat Sat.
Vijay, Dhanyavad. You have shown what our mandate is and what the path to go there. I mean, this is an enormous exposition, for our group to start with. We have a few minutes to, if anybody has questions. I think I would start with Dr. Deshmukh to respond, because as he ended, that now the quantum physicists are looking for Vedanta. So how do you, now what Swamiji said just now, what are your thoughts on that? And then we can go to others for questions. Yeah. Dr. Deshmukh, yeah.
I think the quantum physicist who came closest to this is my late friend, Professor Lothar Schaefer. And he clearly says that how do we get there? How do we realize this? And he said you have to realize this in your own heart. Your own personal experience, direct experience of that feeling of oneness with the whole universe. He calls it the universal interconnectedness. The whole universe is one pattern, and our own existence is a small part of that pattern, like a fractal. Fractal is one within the other. It's like that. And he clearly talks about Advaita Vedanta, and he respects it. And he taught physical chemistry, all the electrons and atoms and molecules for 40 years. Great scientist. But he used to come for our Vedanta meetings. We used to have regular Vedanta meetings in US. And I used to attend that, he used to attend that, when we became very good friends.
I think anybody else has any thoughts? The floor is open. Dr. Bhate? Yeah, please.
I'm here. Ramesh, this is Dilip Thatte.
Yeah, please.
Namaste, Swamiji. This is Dilip Thatte. Excellent discourse. You mentioned that in deep sleep we are connecting with the Brahman, or we're going close to the Ishvara. So the longer the deep sleep, the closer or longer we are spending time with, in connection with the ultimate truth or the Brahman. And so can you elaborate on that? Because we don't have any knowledge of the deep sleep after we wake up, yet we do have that feeling that you have been somewhere which is giving you the peace of mind.
Yeah, it's, nice to see you. And I would like to say that, it's not that you're close to Bhagavan or close to Brahman in sleep. You are Brahman in sleep. There is no you. And there is, all the problems in the waking state are gone. No credit card debt, no annoying people, nothing. It's all just one. And so we are not talking of the dream state here. We are talking of sleep, deep sleep. And then so when you, the mind also, which broadcasts, which has the ability to broadcast or register this, is also in a place of repose. So therefore it is cognized in hindsight. Sukhamaham aswapsam na kinchid avedisham. I slept very well and I don't have, I don't remember anything. But we know that we crave sleep because it is very difficult to get up. Nobody wants to get up. That's why the alarm clocks of various kinds are still in business, because one doesn't want to get up. Because of that, that oneness is so dear. And that's why it is important to study this, so that we are not always tripping on accidental experiences of oneness. So we have this understanding of the truth of the self, and which can remain with us, which does not contradict the manifest Jagat. Oneness is not putting everything into a melting pot and collapsing the universe. The universe is there, but you enjoy it as the truth of oneself. Like, for example, we have the sunset. Sunrise example I generally avoid giving because nobody is awake at that time. So the sunset, when you look at and you say, what a beautiful sunset. Being a scientist, one knows that the sun is not setting anywhere. In fact, the more colorful the sunset, then what is there? It means there is smog. The greater the smog, actually. But still we are able to transcend this, and enjoy it. So you can enjoy this, knowing that everything is one. You can enjoy the dualities, the so-called duality you can enjoy. Like, I can enjoy this cup, knowing that it is one with clay. I can still enjoy how nicely it is made and what a nice function and form it has. So like this, that is where that is where the joy of that oneness is. You don't have to take everything down in order to enjoy it.
Thank you.
Dr. Bhate?
Hello, yes. Well, I was just thinking how I should respond. But my story is a little different. I studied Vedanta, I studied all the Upanishads. I mean, for the last 45 years, I've been doing research on Vedas. And I have done all that, but that did not satisfy me at all. That did not tell me how to reach there. And I practice Vipassana for the last for 52 years. I started it when I was on the faculty of IIT Powai in Bombay. I was teaching electronics and electrical engineering. And that's the time in 1973, we invited Goenkaji to IIT to conduct a 10-day shibir. And I was one of the persons who brought it about. And that's where I picked up Vipassana and started practicing it. And I'm still with it. And in 1978, I got Shaktipat in the tradition of Pandit Gopinath Kaviraj of Banaras. And that was the time when actually I had the experience of Kundalini arousal. And the Kundalini went straight through the spine and hit the Sahasrara. And I went into directly. This was a Tivra Shaktipat. There are three kinds of Shaktipat. Madhyam Shaktipat or lower kind of Shaktipat, and the highest, this was the Tivra Shaktipat. And I went straight into Nirvikalpa Samadhi. So that was my way of reaching there. And frankly speaking, all my study of Vedanta, all my study of Vedas and philosophy and everything did not take me there. It was the experience of Shaktipat which took me there. And that is the time when I found that I'm not the body, I'm not the mind. I went beyond my mind-body complex, and I was still, however, conscious. And having that experience later on, I tried to think about it a lot. And tried to philosophize what was it. And I had also read all the books written by Sri Aurobindo of Pondicherry, including The Secret of the Veda, and including the great book that he wrote, The Life Divine. And that's where I found, oh yeah, that's what it is, what Sri Aurobindo called the supermind, because that is consciousness beyond the consciousness. The normal consciousness that people talk about is, as Swamiji said, the consciousness of the mind-body complex. But in the state of samadhi, when you go beyond the mind-body complex and you are still conscious, that consciousness is different from the so-called, quote-unquote, usual, normal consciousness. And Aurobindo calls it the super consciousness. And that's what I experienced. But the process was there, and the process was Shaktipat. So this is how I found it. And I found it in 1978. And since that time, right from 1978 up to today, up to this moment, I have been seeing the rope. I never got it as snake. I never got it as snake. I see the rope all the time. Every moment I see the snake. And then I read all the books written by J. Krishnamurti, his awareness, and people told me, oh, he talked about the awareness for last 40 years, but nobody could understand what is this awareness that he's talking about. Well, frankly speaking, I know that awareness, and I am aware all the time, and I am living in this world. I have been a professor of electrical engineering in India at IIT, and then for last 35 years in USA at various universities. So I've been doing all that, my career, my life. I have a wife and 3 kids, and the usual normal life. And still, while living the normal life, in the background, I still keep looking at the rope. I don't get confuse it with the snake at all. And this is my story. So I agree more than 100%, 101% with what Swamini said. But there is only one point that I might beg to differ. And that point is that, only study of Vedanta is not the way to reach over there. There are processes that help you, like Shaktipata, which enable you to reach there. And then for last, even though I've been a professor of electrical engineering, electronics and computer science and IT and all that, for last about 15 years, I've been deeply studying neurology, neuroscience, neuroanatomy and all that, trying to figure out what is it that exactly happened to me when I got that Shaktipat. Because I did experience the Kundalini. It rose, it shot up through the spine and hit the top of my head. What was that? And I didn't understand it because basically I've been an engineer. So for last almost 10, 12 years, I've been diligently studying neuroanatomy. And I have had umpteen discussions with Dr. Deshmukh here during last 3 years, three and a half years or so since I got introduced to him. I've been talking to him all the time. He suggested many articles. I have gone through all of them. I asked him what books do they use for teaching neuroanatomy in medical colleges. He gave me names of the books. I got those books. I read them through, etc., etc. And yet, even that I found is insufficient because that's all true. I mean, Kundalini is there, the spinal cord is there, the Ida, Pingala, Sushumna, all these nadis are there. I know what they are, and I mean, I know that the Kundalini rose through Sushumna nadi. I mean, there are different ways. I don't want to spend time on that, but other kinds of Shaktipata, some people try to pull the Kundalini through Ida. Some people try to pull it through Pingala, etc. There are ways, but the Tivra Shaktipata goes through Sushumna straight. And then what I found is that yes, neuroscience will help in understanding the process. All right. But will neuroscience take somebody, enable somebody to reach? No. Neuroscience provides you an explanation of the processes. All right. It's like knowing how the car runs. The engine started and the car starts running, and the automobile engineering tells you how the car runs. Okay. But you still have to sit there and drive it, right? And driving that is a process which I am still trying to explore. Having learned all the Vedanta, all the Vedas, having spent 45 years on my study of Vedas has not helped. Having spent 15 years studying neuroscience has not helped. It was only Shaktipada that helped. And I'm still trying to figure out what is that process. Thank you.
Dr. Bhate, I think that is what I think Swamini was explaining. I think
Yes.
You start thinking about who am I, so other thoughts disappear. And eventually, who am I, also thought disappears and becomes one. That's what Raman Maharshi used to say. So this oneness of feeling is a question of process. And that is
what no. My problem has been that all this remains at the intellectual level. It does give us an understanding that rope is rope is not snake. It does give us an understanding.
Let us give a chance to, let Swamiji respond to this.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your story. Very moving. Very nice. I was happy to hear about your experience. Wonderful. And you see, what Vedanta talks about does not contradict experience. And again, I also want to say I'm sorry that all the 45 years of study you felt like it did not yield much insights or whatever it was. It's, the way it is to be studied is, we say traditionally, under a person who knows, and that person should be able to guide you. That is what, Guru Mukhat, rather than by oneself. So I don't know that part of the story. So perhaps that might have been, if you studied all by yourself, that might have been a deterrent. But the larger point is this, that Vedanta does not contradict Kundalini or experiences of oneness, etc. And just like what you said, a whole lifetime of research on what this oneness is, it cannot be figured out. And so that is the whole point, is to be able to live that every day, and to understand that, to see that the rope is rope, as you, to put it in your words, all the time, everywhere. And that is, if it is achieved, we say, by whatever means it is achieved, that is what is called Vedanta. This is what the Shastra says. Because, Vedanta is not a particular Upanishad or a particular body of things, but it is that understanding of oneness, because the experience made you understand, because the experience itself is knowledge in a way. It is a different kind of a knowledge, but it is still a knowledge, because afterwards we analyze the experience, like you beautifully mentioned, that you tried to figure it out through this, that, and everything. So experience is knowledge, because what touches from the what touches is the experience. What stays with one is that understanding, and is whatever that experience means. And so, however it happens, wherever this oneness happens, that is what we call Vedanta. So Vedanta is not just confined to a few texts like the Bhagavad Gita and the Upanishad. It is in fact nothing to do with the text. It is that which the text yields, like the Upanishad says, Mundaka Upanishad says, Yaya Aksharam Adhigamyate Sa Para Vidya. That is that oneness, the knowledge of oneness, that what makes it happen, that Akhandakara Vritti, which you had that experience of, that is Vedanta. So, in a sense, we are, saying the same things, except that, I am glad you said that mere intellection is not the way to quote unquote get there, because the problem is one is already there. So, whatever takes one there, we say is an expression of Vedanta.
Yeah, let me clarify. I never said there is a conflict. No.
Yeah.
All these things are related to each other. As a matter, and I have studied with many great people. In fact, I have been to Arsha Vidya Gurukulam right here on the border between Pennsylvania and New Jersey. And I had so many meetings with Swami Dayananda ji, late Swami Dayananda ji, when he was alive. I have met him many times, and I'm very familiar with all that. No, there is no conflict. There is no conflict. I just mentioned that one needs a double life. In
I
fact,
think Dr. Bhate,
Yeah.
Shishiji Paroda has a question quickly. Yeah? We are coming
Yes.
to an end.
yes.
Shishiji, please go ahead.
Pranam Swamini ji. In the beginning, you very beautifully mentioned that if you leave this world without realizing self, then like whatsoever you did in whole lifetime, it was nothing. So now I am 67 years old and I am also reading Gita, and they say that there is a possibility of Tatkal Bodh, because reading will not lead anywhere, and you also beautifully mentioned that leading will not lead anywhere. Can study of Vedanta hasten this process? Because you don't know, whether you are going to live tomorrow or even now, this day you are going to live, because life is very short. Until now I have not, like I have read Gita, but then that Tatkal Bodh hasn't come.
It will come. Keep studying. Yeah, we have.
No,
so
but you
many
yourself mentioned that study will not take anywhere.
No, study with somebody who knows, and study with somebody who's been taught to unfold that. That is what listening. Study means listening. You have to listen, because that listening, what it does, it bypasses that the researcher within. It bypasses. You have to bypass the one that is trying to ferret out the truth. It's exactly like an operation. Like when you undergo an operation, the first thing the doctors do is they anesthetize you, and they say they don't want to feel you to feel the pain. And actually they don't also want to feel the pain of you being awake and then questioning them. Are you using the right scalpel? Are you cutting in the right place? What are you doing now? They don't want that interference. So other means of knowledge, you operate your eyes, your ears, you are the inferrer. But Vedanta operates on you if you allow it to. So the extent to which you will allow is the extent to which it will yield. And that is why we need bhakti, shraddha, all these things that are talked about in the Upanishads.
So I have joined a satsang, which is being run in Rishikesh only, and they have online Zoom.
Good.
So should I join something else, because life is so short?
You can join my classes if you want. If what you heard speaks to you, you can join. There are so many things possible, and
okay. So that is on your website.
Yeah, it is on
we
the
will
website.
inform everyone.
Yeah, it is on the website. All the schedule is there. Anybody is is welcome to join. You can join.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Anybody else has quick question? Otherwise, we'll conclude.
There are two people. I don't know who they are. One more is there.
Please go ahead. Yeah. Anil ji, please.
Anil Pence.
Anil Pense, you know Swamini ji. You know, we
Yeah,
had
of course.
I have one question regarding this Schrodinger equation, non-duality, duality, and about the particle physics. Does it mean that particle has memory or life, anything like that? When you go to the basic particle.
I think that might be a question better directed to Dr.
Dr.
Deshmukh.
Dr.
Yeah, but what I would say, since you have asked me, is just to say that uh, everything has intelligence, knowledge. And so when we are talking about particle physics, it is more like the experimenter is affecting the experiment. And if the experimenter is affecting the experiment, that means there is that oneness already.
Yeah,
That is what I would say.
Lothar Schaefer described particles as the crescent of
Already you have mentioned oneness.
wave. It's like the very, supposing you are flying in the air and you look at the ocean and you just see the top of the wave, that is like a particle. But under that crescent of the wave, there is a whole substantial ocean, which is the background of that crescent. That particle you see only for a fraction of a second, an electron or a positron or photon, but that is supported by the whole universal interconnectedness, the reality that is underlying the whole process, one process that goes on. That is what he calls the non-empirical field, which guides the empirical phenomena, empirical events. So Lothar Schaefer, I would highly recommend that book to you. It's listed in some of the slides. He was a great author and a great thinker on this subject.
The particle has a shade, and that shade is real. You know, that's what.
It's
Exactly.
momentum.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah.
So Swamini ji, thank you for your guidance. We'll get back to you again, you know, for the group, you know, to take them forward in this.
I wish the group my best.
Yeah, and
Thank you.
so much for your time.
Thank you very much. May
Thank
you
you.
have fruitful discussions, and may everyone grow together. That is the best way of growing and moving forward. May everyone delight in each other's discoveries. That is my prayer.
Thank you. Thanks for inaugurating this group.
Thank you
Everybody is
very
welcome
much.
to join, and we'll keep announcing this. And this is a self-study. This is not going to be only discourses. You know, one should study, come back with questions and answers, and we discuss those questions and answers and try to find solutions. I think that's the way to progress instead of only listening to discourses. Thank you, Swamini ji, again. We are very grateful to you for your time, for your advice,
Thank you.
and we will get back to you. Thank you, everyone, for participating.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Swamini.
Ramesh ji. Thank you, Ramesh ji.
Thank you, Swamini.
Thank you.
Om.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Recording will be available. We'll make it available. Recording. Whoever